Welcome to the Apple Insider Podcast. This is your host, Stephen Robles, and today we're going to talk about the ChatGPT-type tool that Apple is testing internally. Final Cut for iPad was updated with some welcome keyboard shortcuts. Beat Studio Pro is now official, and I'm going to tell you how to kill an Apple TV. This episode is brought to you by HelloFresh and MasterClass, and joining me is my good friend from across the pond, William Gallagher. How's it going?
It was going fine till you have murdered an Apple TV. You can't
killed
just...
it.
No, okay.
Killed it.
All right.
Killed it.
What did it ever do to you?
Well, you're not going to get me to spoil it right here at the top. We're going to get to it very quickly. Right after some follow-up, I want to tell you how to kill an Apple TV, but it was a very interesting experience. Oh, real quick, we have to do some shout-outs, William, because we had some wonderful listeners.
Yes.
Mobile Chris, who said, he titled his review, 5 stars, no regrets, from the USA. That was a callback to Wes and I. Oh, you know what? Now that I have you, William.
Oh, no.
If it's
I've
not,
been avoiding
if it's not
this.
if it's not too personal.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know what I'm about to ask?
Sorry, you're breaking up now. I think you're going into a tunnel or something.
No. Now, wait a minute. Do you have any tattoos, William?
Oh, right. No, I thought this was going to be a musical thing. No, I have no tattoos.
What did you think? What did you think was going to be a musical thing?
There was a discussion on Twitter about a musical version of this episode, 3-part harmonies. You, Wes, and frankly, the other tone-deaf guy, like that would be me. Yes. So, yeah, no tattoos, and I never will.
Exactly.
The absolute...
When you're a jet all the way. From your first cigarette to your last dying day. Anyway, that's all I'm
I was going to be serious there, but no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No. What was the serious thing you were saying? I interrupted.
The total certainty that I will regret anything I had as a tattoo 2 minutes later. Yeah, the certainty of it.
2 minutes.
Yeah, that's about my record for things. Isn't there a thing that Victoria Beckham was asked once, are there any of your tattoos that you regret having? And she's apparently said, all of them.
All of them.
I think, yeah, kind of with her on that one. So, actually, sorry, I worked with a man once who insisted that you were not a man unless you had a tattoo. And I said to him, your school biology lessons were a long time ago, weren't they? But didn't go down well.
Wow.
Okay.
I will just say that I was talking to some friends about tattoos, and I have no idea. I do not have tattoos now. I have no idea what I would get. But there is a website, and I'm going to put this link in the show notes just for you, William. So maybe you will do this one day.
Yeah. Okay, whatever it is, I'm already rushing to do it. Yes.
It is called Momentary Ink, and you can actually get tattoos that last like 2 weeks, and then they disappear. You know, they wash off. So it's like slightly more than a temporary tattoo and like a henna tattoo. It lasts a little longer than that. You can get full sleeves for your arm. Mm-hmm. You can get a little Apple logo and just put it right on your shoulder. You do whatever you want. Temporary tattoos.
I will do whatever I want then. Okay, right.
Whoever had tattoos on their Apple Insider podcast bingo card, reach out. I want to know if you ever thought that was going to be an intro topic. All right, Gabriel Carroll, 88 from Great Britain. Oh, he was asking, he has 90% battery health on his Apple Watch SE2. I know I kept talking about battery health on my cracked iPhone, which, spoilers, I guess. Or I guess it's not a spoiler. I'm just telling you now. Still not replaced. I still haven't gotten a replacement. I went to the Apple store, and they had to order my particular model, which is a 14 Pro in silver, 512 gigabytes. And because they don't have that exact model in color, they can't replace it. So I'm still waiting for a call back. And now I don't know.
You mean you didn't stand there in the store and scream at all of the staff? Because apparently that works.
I thought about it.
Yeah. Okay.
No, instead I just took a selfie in my ATP shirt that said Believe, which is a Ted Lasso reference you wouldn't get. But anyway, listen, don't worry. If you have 90% battery health on Apple Watch SE2, I think you're good. You're all right. And then Lifter 1763 from the USA, he actually knows my son. I'm not exactly sure who the name is because it's just Lifter 1763.
Wait, so every time anyone comes round to your house to see your son, you're going to be thinking, does he or maybe she look like a Lifter 1763?
Are you Lifter 17? Is that like a
you go up
date?
To somebody, a pal of your son comes in and you go, listen, are you Lifter? They'll think it's a deeply personal question with all these old guy meanings that they don't understand. You could freak out anybody who walks through the front door. You must do it, all of them.
I'll do it. I'll interrogate everyone who comes through. And one last shout out to MacTips587, a faithful listener of the show. Thank you all. Thank you all for listening. Wonderful.
MacTips587. I will not listen to a word that any MacTips below number 587 ever say.
That's right. Only 587 and above for life. Now, you weren't on last week when we talked about this, but Evernote laid off a bunch of American and Chile employees, moving its operations to Europe. Basically, it looks like it's being sunset And we had a few listeners reach out. Paul wrote an email because he's talking about another app that kind of went this way, which was CardMate Pro, which you would keep all your cards in your wallet. And so we were just kind of talking about apps that just have slowly died over the years. But did you have any feelings about Evernote? I know you stopped using Evernote because you had a terrible experience with data loss.
Multiple. You're thinking of a problem I had with day one that was just brutal, but that wasn't me, actually, it was my wife's. But with me, with Evernote, there was just problem after problem. And it got so, if you have a problem with Evernote and you're a premium subscriber, to make up for your problem, they give you an extra 3 months. Right? And 1 month, 3 months, something like that, of premiumness. And I suddenly realized I hadn't paid for Evernote in 3 years because of all of the problems constantly adding on. And things like, there was one massive problem, but it was all right. I was a premium subscriber. You get instant response, instant support if you're a paid subscriber. But the problem was Evernote had decided to not think I was a premium subscriber anymore. That was the problem.
You're not premium,
because it
William.
believed it. It would not. It took them 10 days to get back to me to fix a problem that I needed fixing that first day. And I think that was the last straw, but there were multiple last straws. So my thought when this happened, I feel sorry for the people who worked on it. I know if you're getting through Evernote without the problems I kept seeing everywhere, then that's fantastic. And I'm really sorry you might be losing it. But as a product, I mean, every now and again, PR for Evernote will ask me to please review some new feature, and I usually, I'm afraid, I say no because the core functions aren't working.
Right.
About 2 years ago, they had a massive change, and I thought, right, be fair, try them again. Downloaded the trial version, and the trial version had bugs in it. I think if you can't get the front-facing public bit of it, what is the point? So I moved to Apple Notes such a long time ago, I can't remember, and Evernote shot themselves in the foot, and all you can say is they aimed very well, you know.
So that's William's goodbye to Evernote. And for Paul, he was talking about taking images of sensitive documents like credit cards or like passports, social security cards, and keeping them someplace safe. I do that kind of stuff in 1Password because they have those categories. But again, I'm trying to transition to iCloud passwords, which is again just my constant plea for a standalone app that lets you do these other kind of pieces of data or images. Or you could just make a PDF or an image and save it in your iCloud drive, which you can do advanced data security on your iCloud stuff. I'm not sure if that applies to the entire iCloud drive now that I say that, though. So I might have to do a follow-up on the follow-up next week about that.
Sorry, just suddenly, do you remember an app called Bento?
The
FileMaker. That was a good little database app, and it vanished. In fact, I was in Japan a couple of months ago now, and they brought out a bento box for me to eat from, and it was like, no. That's where it was called for.
that's what it was.
Nobody understood around me.
I would have gotten the reference.
Thank you. Okay.
Another follow-up, this was from Twitter. I was having a conversation. There's one video, CNET posted this video. This was a TikTok that came out like months ago. But people show this accessibility feature where you can say a voice command and then accessibility on the iPhone will mimic touches on screen. Again, this is an accessibility feature. And people are saying you can take a little marker. If you have your passcode, mark the numbers on your passcode, like where they appear on screen, go into accessibility settings, make these touches, like you can program this series of touches through a voice command, and then you can unlock your phone via voice. Don't do this. Just don't do this. This is a bad idea for that. But user FLWXPX was saying they would love to be able to do more from the lock screen with Siri, and they felt like they couldn't do anything. And I wanted to point them to 2 different settings. And so listeners, if you want to be able to do more while your phone is locked via Siri, or maybe things like Control Center and Home Controls, there are settings for this. Number 1, go to the Settings app on your iPhone, go to Siri and search, and then you might have to enable Siri on the lock screen. That's the first setting you would have to enable. And I want to just double check and make sure I'm actually right with that. Okay, you scroll down, Siri and search, scroll down again, and then there is Allow Siri when locked. It's actually at the top of the Siri and search menu. So you would toggle that on. And then the other place you would have to go is Face ID and passcode, which is again in the Settings app where you set your Face ID and passcode stuff. And there, if you scroll down, there's an Allow Access when locked section of toggles that include Notification Center, Control Center, lock screen widgets, live activities, Siri, home control, all these different options. And again, any one you enable, then you are allowing possibly someone who gets your phone to do these commands without having to unlock your phone. So you do have to ride that balance of privacy and security and then ease of use. But that is where you go to adjust what is possible from your lock screen when your phone is locked. So those are the settings.
Except, I think there's something screwy here because that makes absolute sense. And when I heard you say it on Twitter, I ran to do it because I've had that. You must unlock it. Yeah, whatever. Hate that stuff. But I looked and, it's enabled on the lock screen. I go into Face ID and passcode. The only thing that is not ticked on is wallet. Everything else is available to me.
And you still can't do stuff?
And I still can't do stuff from the lock screen. Not everything. I think there's something screwy going on here with the settings somewhere, because I get things like when I try to navigate, it will quite often tell me, you can't do that while you're driving. And really? No. And actually...
Wait, no, you're on the beta though, right?
Well, I haven't had it on the beta of iOS 17, but I used to have it a lot on 16 and before. So I think my iPhone just doesn't like me. So what you said works for everybody else. So,
You just need to upgrade. When the 15 comes out, you just got to upgrade. It fixes everything.
Right.
Get a new iPhone.
That's your answer.
That's it. All right. One other follow-up before I tell you how to kill an Apple TV. My Mac, I have this thing. I don't know if you ever experienced this, William. Do you use, I know you have your ultra-wide, like 80-inch, 2-inch tall, and 18 feet wide monitor or whatever. Do you have multiple displays? Like, do you keep your laptop open and actually use two screens, or do you just look at the one?
Sometimes, if I've been using Final Cut Pro on the MacBook and it's got some rendering whatever to do, I'll leave it to the side of the Mac Mini and kind of reach over through the screens to click OK then or something.
Right.
I also quite often I'll have an iPad next to the MacBook, and whether I intend to or not, it's part of the same screen. Yes.
Okay. Well, my question to all of the macOS users out there who might know, there are two instances where I have my studio display. It's my primary monitor. My dock is on that, like the display settings. This is my primary monitor, my studio display. But I also have my Mac Studio HDMI port going into a Blackmagic ATEM switcher, which is like, so I can switch to a secondary display that my Mac Studio is running if I ever want to show like a website or something on screen when I'm doing a video podcast or whatever. So that secondary display, I never use it unless I'm using my switcher. And so I want everything that I open, every new application, every new window, every new Finder window, I want it to open on my main studio display. And 99% of the time it works. But two instances, there's one particular app, and then in Final Cut, when I right click on a clip, a video file, and I say reveal in Finder, those two windows without fail, always open on the secondary display, which I don't even have like that monitor on. Like I can't even see it when I'm working because it's through the A10 Mini Pro going to a multi-view, like it's doing all this stuff. And for some reason, I cannot get those two things to open the windows on the studio display. And Finder, anytime I open a new Finder window, boom, right there in the middle of the studio display, no problem. If I click Command N, never goes over there except when I right click a video file in Final Cut and I say reveal in browser, and it refuses to put that over on my primary display. So I don't know if there's like a terminal command. I know there's lots of window management utilities. I'm not sure if I want to get into that, but if there's any way where I can just tell everything on my Mac, always open new windows on my primary display, never the secondary, I would love to know. And if you have an answer, William, I'd love to know too. I don't know if you deal with it.
I'm wondering. Every time is different. I mean, it's a new window showing a new thing, but it's actually coming from the same place.
Right.
So I'm wondering if you were able to see it on the secondary display and you physically dragged it back to your main display, the next time, would it remember where you had set it? Because
I drag it over every time, and it never opens again on the primary display. Every time I drag it over and quit it, try to reopen it, never, just never.
I think you need to buy a new Mac. Yeah.
You know what?
Just throw that right back at you there. So
yeah, that was good. That was good. You're keeping your powder dry on that one. Yeah, okay.
I mean, I can think of many keyboard shortcuts that might do it. Keyboard Maestro probably would. Although window management is really quite weird on the Mac sometimes.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Okay, well, if anyone has an answer out there or just loves a window utility that they use, I'd love to hear about it. And you let me know. Okay, I want to get to the Apple GPT chatbot thing, but this is actually very quick. I have many Apple TVs in this house, William. I've collected them over the years, and they get to be a lot. But there is one Apple TV that we recently got because there's an elderly relative that caretaking. She's like in her 90s. This is my wife's grandmother, and she watches TV pretty much like all day. That's kind of, it's just on all day. And where she came from, she used to watch like an antenna broadcast type deal. So it was like normal TV, coax cable, just on all day. Well, over here, we don't have cable. We don't have coax anything. And so I was like, well, we'll get an Apple TV and then you can stream whatever you want, whenever you want. YouTube will just play next all day. Any of the streaming services will just roll to the next episode. Like it'll be a piece of cake. So this Apple TV, one of the newer like 4K models, we installed it, and this thing is running, I would say 12-ish hours a day nonstop. Okay. And I don't think there's many Apple TV users that test their Apple TVs like that, maybe at an Apple store. But even that, it's usually like on the menu screen or it goes to screensaver. This thing is like streaming content 12 hours straight every day. Okay. Just nonstop. It freezes a lot. Like it actually, just the Apple TV will just like freeze and stop loading and someone has to like go out of an app and go back in. And so that's always like, kind of annoying because it doesn't just play. But then, William, after about 10 months of this, the Apple TV started clicking. Have you ever heard of this? It started making an audible clicking sound. And if you search on the web, you look on Reddit, like this is actually a phenomenon that other people have experienced. And it is basically the sign of end of life of this Apple TV. And so it just started clicking randomly and then died. The Apple TV just died and it like does not turn on. It doesn't do anything. And I didn't know it was possible, William, but you can kill an Apple TV.
Just through love.
And that's it.
Okay.
Just through 12 plus straight hours of streaming every day nonstop.
Except
the Apple TV will die eventually.
There are no moving parts in an Apple TV. There's nothing to physically make a noise. So it sounds like it's like electrical interference. Are you sure it wasn't just, I don't know, a dog has been chewing at the mains cable or something?
No, because we moved an Apple TV from another part of the house into that space using the same electrical cable, same HDMI cable, and it was fine. No clicking, no anything. So it's not like a cable. It's not like, I don't know, like you're saying, I'm not sure what would make the clicking aside from some circuitry inside the Apple TV, like shorting out.
Yeah.
And it would restart, like when it would click and then it would kind of restart itself. And then you'd have to go back into whatever app. And then one time it just clicked and that was it. It was the last click it would ever make. And now it's gone.
Well, you need to buy a new Apple TV then. Clearly. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, that we already did.
Okay.
That's already been done. But I don't know if any listener of the Apple Insider Show has ever experienced a clicking from an Apple TV and then it just dies. But apparently, this is a thing that happens.
And so far, the new one isn't freezing or anything like that. Is it okay?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, you had a dodgy box then, like a Friday afternoon.
And man, it ran for months fine. It was totally fine. So it was just super interesting experience. And, Apple devices, when being used in a way that is expected to be used, they last for years and years. You can see like iPad Gen 2s as like point of sale systems at some, random coffee house.
Yes.
And it is still running. It has to be plugged in. You unplug that thing, there's no battery left. It's just going to die if you unplug it from power. But it still works. Like it'll still turn on. And so it takes a lot usually to kill an Apple device. But Apple TV, just stream.
Was that one of the Apple TVs that had the built-in warranty sensor?
That's what it was. You got the U1 chip, you got Thread, and you got the warranty sensor.
Yes, there you go.
A lot of people don't know about that. No, a lot of people don't know. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I'd love to hear if anyone else has experienced that. This episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip all those trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I have to tell you, I got a box of HelloFresh the other day, and honestly, my kids love to actually participate in the cooking process. I'm actually going to put a photo as the chapter art for this spot. As you see it now, if you look in your podcast player, And you can see my kids and my wife there. Everybody's cooking these meals. I'm going to tell you the name of these meals because they were amazing. Hoisin glazed pork tenderloin with rice. Loved that one. There was a chicken pasta. That was incredible. And then the best one. Oh my goodness. I can't even tell you. Gouda Vibes burger with this like garnish that they had. It was just incredible. And I love that HelloFresh's recipes are so easy to follow. They have beautiful pictures that just walk you through it step by step. And you have all those ingredients right in the box. You have your meat, your seasoning, everything is ready to go. You don't have to think about it at all. And listen, it's peak time for summer produce, and HelloFresh makes sure you get all the best picks all season long. Their ingredients travel from the farm to your door in less than 7 days for qualities you can taste. And HelloFresh is more than just delicious dinners. It's now easier than ever to skip that extra trip to the grocery store by adding snacks, sides, and more to your weekly order. So just simply shop HelloFresh Market, take your pick from a curated selection of over 100 items. And again, I just have to tell you, it is delicious. The recipes are easy to follow. I am no chef. I did not cook a lot when I didn't really do it growing up, and then haven't done a ton since getting HelloFresh, but I can follow those HelloFresh recipes. Super easy to do. You can get a meal for 2 or meal for 4. Save it for leftovers, lunch the next day. We did that a couple times. It's just great. So go to HelloFresh.com/AppleInsider50 and use the promo code AppleInsider50 for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/AppleInsider50 and use that promo code AppleInsider50 for 50% off plus free shipping. That's a lot of percent. And you can just click that link in the podcast show notes. It'll take you right to them. Our thanks to HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit for, man, just one of the best burgers I've had recently. It was really good. Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this episode. Now, this next story, William, I'm very keen to hear your thoughts about like the secondary story inside this story. All right, we got a little inception of this. Big news earlier this week was Mark Gurman from Bloomberg reporting that Apple is internally testing a chatbot and trying to develop a large language model like ChatGPT, like Google Bard, and is exploring how that tool will be used by the mass public, by customers. Internally, apparently it's called Apple GPT. Some Apple staff internally are using it for real work, and they're been used to prototype products, generating text for Apple staff member. Again, not currently intended to be launched publicly, but Apple is trying to figure out the consumer angle for this, which we had talked about before. I think there is huge potential. Apps like Xcode could really use an AI generative side where developers could, call on some assistant to auto-generate some code for a task they're trying to do. I think Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, that there's huge potential for AI generative content there, at least helping you make, like, here's some bullet points, make this into a Keynote slide. Little commands like that where an assistant can really help. And not to mention just anywhere in the OS, even if it's like a Siri search where it would generate some content. So, this is like a rabbits or furry situation. I think, yes, Apple was working on AI stuff. They had an internal artificial intelligence conference last year. Like, we know Apple's thinking about this, but now Gurman has made this official, I guess, quote unquote, that they are testing this internally. Just on that part of the story, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it sounds very un-Apple-like in a way. Yeah, everybody calls AI now artificial intelligence, yes, but really it's what Apple calls machine learning. And I found a quote from Tim Cook just gushing about ML and AI. He explicitly said artificial intelligence in 2016, saying out how good this would be for us as consumers. So there's no, Apple has, I can't pronounce his surname, I'm afraid, a guy from Google, John, begins with a G, who is, his job title is head of artificial intelligence, and he's been there years. Apple is steeped in this, but ChatGPT comes out and everybody copies it, and because Apple hasn't got a copy of that, there's this weird perception that it's behind, and I can't see how it is. So I'm sure people don't make this stuff up. There's got to be there, and really, I don't feel that Apple is as out behind the curve as things. And usually this is the thing that happens. Apple has said today they must do this, they must do that, and they come out years later, they've already done something better. I feel like that's where that's where I thought we were until this story came out. So
so here's the secondary, the dream within a dream, let's just say. And this is from John Gruber's article. I'll put the link to what he wrote in the show notes. But I always thought, Mark Gurman, he is, I would say, the most forefront Apple leaker. He has his weekly newsletter called Power On, where he talks about what Apple is doing next. And so many times, I always felt like the headline was always very big. It was very like the huge news had just broke. And typically, when you read into the details, or some might say the non-existent details of whatever the story actually is, it's like, okay, yeah, Apple is going to release an M3 Mac at some point. Like, that doesn't feel much like news. That feels like we can all expect this. Well, Gruber, in his article, was talking about a Business Insider story from years ago that actually talks about how Bloomberg reporters are evaluated and supposedly receive bonuses tied to the ability of their articles and reporting to affect market, like stock prices. Like market moving news is the goal of reporting by Bloomberg reporters because they are incentivized to write stories that affect the stock market. And I didn't know about this, William, but one of Bloomberg's biggest parts of their business is what's called the Bloomberg Terminal, which is, I guess, a computer. It's some device. And this has been around for years. This has been like a thing that people use. This is a long-standing thing. The Bloomberg Terminal gives you early access to Bloomberg news and things like what might affect stock prices or whatever. And I think up to the minute stock prices or whatever from NASDAQ and the Dow Jones or whatever. And you get it earlier when you have this terminal, and you can purchase it personally for the very inexpensive annual fee of $24,000 per user. Or if you're just having one in your house and you're just a single person that wants to use the Bloomberg Terminal, $27,000 per year to use this Bloomberg Terminal, which gives you early access to market information. And Gruber, I think very deftly, shows that this article about Apple GPT from Mark Gurman, it was posted at 12:03 p.m. And you can see Apple's stock jump a pretty good percentage 1 minute later at 12:04. And then that jump leveled out, and I think the day ended and Apple was up like 0.7%. So it didn't really affect it like long term, but there was an initial jump. And Microsoft, who is working with OpenAI on their artificial intelligence stuff, their stock dropped, I think, a percent. And so it was clear that this article affected the market here in the US. And because one of Bloomberg's largest pieces of their business is this terminal that apparently generates something like $8 billion a year for them. There's a Wikipedia article saying how many of these terminals are actually in use around the world. It seems like the incentive to write things that move the market is what Bloomberg reporters, including Mark Gurman, try to do. And all of a sudden, reading this article about the terminal, the motivation, and all of that kind of opened my mind to this whole world of interesting. I did not know about any of this, and it kind of makes sense now. I don't know. Did you have any idea about any of this?
I'd heard of terminal now you've said it, but I didn't realize the scope of it. I mean, that example of the 1203, 1204, the posting of the article and the effect, I'd need a lot more examples. And I'd also need to know that no one else was covering that thing at that time and things like that before I would be more sure. But this is enough to make me troubled. Yeah, that's quite...
And it's not to say that what he's reporting is fake or wrong.
No.
Or no, like I think he's reporting from actual source. Obviously, Gurman has great sources, Mark Gurman from Bloomberg, because there are many times, especially, in the weeks before an event, WWDC, the iPhone launch, that he will be like over 90% accurate about the leaks of the devices, sometimes the names, whatever Apple's launching this. So clearly Mark Gurman has solid sources inside Apple, and that's what he's using to report. I'm not saying the reporting at all is inaccurate or not good. I think the information that he has and that he reports on is obviously accurate, but the way in which it is worded sometimes and how it seems to maybe over exaggerate, Apple's stance in the market and how it might affect the other players like Microsoft and Google, it always felt worded in a way that it was kind of larger than the actual news. And I feel like this sheds some light on why that might be. Again, this is the first time ever hearing about this. I would encourage our listeners to read that John Gruber article He links to the Business Insider article from years ago that talks about the Bloomberg Terminal, but I just find it interesting, all of it.
Except, a friend of a friend works for Forbes magazine. Apparently, I just learnt recently, and I cannot talk to my friend, the one in the middle, about this because I can't bear what Forbes does. It's like end of the world type shock from Apple. There might be a pink iPhone. Oh, you just So talking about overblowing things and picking a time for it, I think there are worse offenders than Bloomberg. But then on the other hand, Bloomberg did do that Chinese spy chip story a few years ago. Yeah, and that's
Right.
I mean, they took the two reporters off reporting duties and promoted them. So punishment took. I couldn't work out what was going on there, and we're many years in, and they're still pretending that it's real, and every evidence says, "Oh, bless," So,
And I think there's like obviously news websites like Forbes, like Bloomberg, like AppleInsider. The main revenue generator is ad views when people go and read the articles on the website, or if it's like the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg, it's people paying a subscription to read the content. So obviously, having catchy content, you can call it clickbaity, maybe even salacious. Obviously, having content that people want to read and feel it's valuable to pay for, like that's the obvious game. I feel like clearly news agencies write things so people click and so people want to read. Like that's the obvious game. But then to also have a large part of your business be this device that gives you early access to market information and a benefit of writing articles that particularly affect the market is that you can then explain why this Bloomberg terminal is also more valuable. I just think it is very interesting, and I don't know. I'm just going to have that in the back of my mind now when I read articles like this.
Well, it should always be cynical about sources, but I'm hoping there's a kind of church and state separation between the two. I used to work one day at BBC Corporation and the next day at BBC Worldwide, and officially, one is a subsidiary of the other. They should be played, but they were so different. Sometimes I wanted the BBC to be a little bit more like BBC Worldwide, and BBC Worldwide to be a little bit more like the BBC. I think that would have been a nice mix, but as it is, they could not have been further apart if they were opposite companies. So I am now equally concerned, but I'm not going to run away from Bloomberg.
No. Well, and again, like when Mark Gurman has his newsletter come out and he's saying like these two, these products are coming, the Apple Vision Pro, he had been talking about it for, honestly, for a couple of years. But when he was pretty sure, he was saying it's coming out WWDC. He was very sure. Obviously, he had sources that would confirm it. So again, I'm saying like if you want the most cutting edge leaks and rumors and stuff, go to appleinsider.com. But
so glad you pivoted at the last second there. I thought this was going mad. Okay, yes.
No, I know. Listen, I know what's up. I know what's up. But I just, again, like it's interesting. I think these kinds of articles, Apple GPT. Okay, yes, Apple's working on an internal chatbot, large language model to compete with Google Bard and OpenAI. They're testing internally and they're exploring what it means for a consumer. Are you personally, William, surprised by any of that information?
Well, a little. Just I didn't think Apple would bother with mimicking ChatGPT. I thought they'd carry on doing what they've been doing for the rest of it. But I suppose that was just a lack of imagination on my part, really. So no, I shouldn't have been surprised.
But I mean, also, I don't know. I like it. To me, it feels okay. It makes sense. Apple's testing these things. They're going to try it out. They're exploring what it means for the consumer. It makes sense, I guess, to hear it officially, quote unquote, but not really officially. I don't know. I found this all fascinating and had no idea about the Bloomberg terminal. And so I have one on the way. It's going to be coming next week. I'm going to install it here in the studio and I'm going to watch to see what it says.
Do they sell it in blue?
It comes with every Apple Card. They're just going to give it away. It comes in the trunk.
Well,
yeah, the display. The display in the car is just a Bloomberg terminal. Whatever that is. I went to the website that Gruber links in his article that talks about the Bloomberg terminal. Very difficult to even see what exactly this thing is or what it does. It's a bunch of graphs and red and green and stocks and stuff, I guess. I don't even know. This is why I don't get paid the big bucks for this kind of stuff. I don't know what that means. You got one of these in your office, right?
I'm looking at one right now. It's very pretty. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I'll put this as the chapter art. Also, side note, I had several listeners reach out about the chapter art not appearing in the last couple episodes. I worked with our podcast host, and it's been fixed. And so you will be able to see the Bloomberg terminal in the chapter art for this episode, just so you know. All right. You've been on the beta. What do you have everything on the beta, right, William? You're running the beta everywhere?
No, one of my Macs, my main iPhone now, and just in the last few days, my Apple Watch. But my other
Oh,
main
wow.
Mac and my iPad are firmly on the currently shipping versions.
You say firmly, you're running the beta on your watch, William, of all devices that I don't
Yeah,
even think about
yeah, I
touching with the
always do.
beta.
Well, the thing
A
with the watch is, I
watch.
heard this thing of it's a revolutionary change, the biggest change in the watch since the watch began. It will blow people's mind. We can only hope that they can cope with it. You can cope with it. It's fine. It's like, oh, you do that instead of that. All right, it tells you the difference. You just do that. So I was a bit unmind blown by it, but over the days since I've had it, I've actually come to appreciate that it looks better. It makes more use of the screen somehow. It feels generally more useful, but it is not quite the earth-shaking thing that I might have been led to believe by people.
Well, okay. So a couple things. We have an article I will link in the show notes. We talk about the iOS 17 messaging features, which because I don't have it on my main iPhone or my Macs, I'm not really super familiar with the ins and outs. But I do like the check-in feature in iOS 17 where you can actually like share your location with someone to let them know like you're headed home. Maybe you're taking an Uber. They can see your location, and it's a little more detailed and granular than just like share my location for 24 hours. So I like the check-in feature. The auto delete two-factor codes is going to be a huge deal. So anytime you're texted those 6-digit codes, your iPhone can just wipe them away after you've auto-filled them, which is wonderful.
Mine isn't doing that for some reason, and I cannot fathom out why. I'd never even considered it before. My bank, I have texts from just, there must be 40 of these messages over the last few years, and the idea of them just going, that'd be nice. But then the other day, sorry, I had a prompt, the autofill that came in. I'd just done this. I got my bank to send me a code, and the autofill in my Mac came in, autofill in David. Not a number that was sent to me, but the name David. I think it was like a clipboard manager thing or something, but I chose not to autofill in the name David. So,
Well, I think you do have to enable this.
yes.
So you do have to turn this on.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's not retrospective as well, so just anything new that comes in. But since I've enabled it, I've been quite eagerly waiting for things to vanish, and I don't know what I'm doing
I
wrong.
also wonder if, because you have devices still on iOS 16, if you have
Oh,
iCloud messages enabled, where it tries to keep all your messages in
that's a
sync,
very good point. Yes.
it might be doing that.
Yes, clever.
So
Thank you.
just go all in on all the betas, William. Just install it everywhere.
Yeah, Final Draft. Well, last time I tried, Final Draft still wasn't working on macOS Sonoma. So,
Mhm.
which reminds me, I kept thinking of that. I had to say Cast Sonoma to get the name right in my head. But I was playing with the new dictation toys, and it kept changing it to macOS Cinema. And I thought, I quite like
Oh my
that
word.
as a name. So there we go.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. I do like the little quick menu. They redesigned that plus icon so you can see some of those icons. They look not iOS like, some of these, like the photos icon and that little menu that pops up. It feels a little more skeuomorphic than iOS has been. So I mean, I like it. Looks kind of interesting. I also just discovered, as I'm playing around with the messages thing, the autofill feature. Have you seen this, William? Where you can autofill anywhere?
I don't
Like without having to wait for it to recognize that it's something to be filled.
know. I don't think I can even understand this. Give me an
Okay.
example.
So any text field, like let's say if you're typing a message or even the address bar in Safari, if you tap with your finger, you'll now see an autofill command. And if you tap that autofill, you can actually autofill contact info, passwords, your iCloud passwords, or you can scan text like with a camera and then it will paste that in. And if you tap something like passwords, then you can autofill
Oh.
any password in your iCloud keychain, iCloud passwords in any field. This is huge because there are many times when I am trying to log into an app per se, and for some reason iCloud keychain does not recognize it as a login screen because it's in an app. And this seems like I can just tap on any text field that's blank, tap autofill, tap passwords, and it should, I imagine, fill the passwords automatically no matter where I am, even if it doesn't recognize it as a login field.
That's excellent. I've just tried it as you were saying it, and yes, I've got it. Oh, I'm using that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you can autofill contact info. So let's say if you wanted to put in like your address somewhere and you want to autofill some stuff, like you can access your contact info quickly, select the address or select whatever, and then yeah, it'll just autofill it. That's pretty cool. I like that. I just
I'm
realized it.
having
Look at that.
Thank you very much.
Discovering new features live on the air. Autofill for iOS 17. Some of you may have heard me talk about my music background. Growing up and in college, I studied music, and it's just a huge part of my life. I was a trumpet performance major in college, but I love everything about music, and one of the things I like is to be inspired by incredible musicians and hearing their story and where they get inspiration and creativity. And that's why I love MasterClass, and a recent class that me and my wife actually watched together with the incredible cellist Yo-Yo Ma, talking about where his creativity comes from, how to be an incredible musician, and really how that applies to life. I just loved it. You have to check out that Yo-Yo Ma, and I'm so glad that MasterClass has sponsored today's episode. MasterClass is where you can learn from the best to become your best anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. Annual memberships start at just $10 a month, and you get unlimited access to all the instructors, thousands of online lessons, exclusive content, insights, and much more. There are over 180 classes to pick from. Some of my favorites: you can learn the art of negotiation from Chris Voss, who wrote the book Never Split the Difference. Highly recommend that. You can learn about DJ and music from Questlove. He's the band leader on The Tonight Show. I loved watching his class. And of course, you can learn cooking from Gordon Ramsay. I have to say, he has this one class where he talks about making mashed potatoes. It is just looks like the most incredible mashed potatoes I've ever seen. And, he explains the whole thing. Obviously, the video, audio production, it looks incredible. You can watch it multiple times over and over. There's little overlays on screen that tells you exactly what to be doing while you're cooking with the recipe. Loved all of it. Find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work, and gain new skills in as little as 10 minutes, either on your phone. You can watch it on your iPhone, your iPad, your computer, smart TV. Master has a class right on the Apple TV, and you can even listen to audio mode on the go. So if you start watching on your phone, maybe on your lunch break, and you have to jump in the car, just flip it over into audio mode, and you can listen to it like it's a podcast. I like watching a class at night. Me and my wife can sit down, we'll watch that Yo-Yo Ma class, or just on a lunch break, or if I'm going to drive, I might listen to something. Like, I love listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about astrophysics, and I love space. So I also like listening to astronaut Chris Hadfield, who's also on MasterClass. So get unlimited access to every class, and right now, as an Apple Insider listener, you get 15% off when you go to masterclass.com/AppleInsider15. That's masterclass.com/AppleInsider15 for 15% off an annual membership. Masterclass.com/AppleInsider15. Our thanks to Masterclass for sponsoring this episode. There was also an update to Final Cut on iPad with some keyboard shortcuts. That was one of my criticisms of Final Cut. Like, many keyboard shortcuts just weren't available, like the letter N for turning on snapping on or off. So they've added a bunch of keyboard shortcuts, and they've fixed some bugs, more jog wheel options. So I'll put that article in the show notes. You can see all the different updates there. I'll be honest, after the first couple of weeks with just testing it, I have not used Final Cut on iPad since. Have you?
I didn't buy it after the trial. I used it once and just I liked a huge amount of it, and I was so excited it was there, but it was enough that meant just for practical purposes I needed to carry on using it on my Mac for what I was editing. So it didn't happen, and I presume I can't get a second trial to see what it's like now. But
no gaming the system, William. No. Yeah, I haven't used it either, but I'm curious if any listeners out there are really in it. Fernando Silva, who does videos for 9 to 5 Mac, I know he's all in on iPad. He might be using it right now. Cool. I'm not sure. Let me know, Fernando. Also, Beats Studio Pro were officially announced. They'll become available actually as we record today. I think you can buy them. And I've not had many Beats products in the past, but I think this is interesting because as we await an updated version of AirPods Max, if they ever come, these Beats Studio Pros over-the-ear headphones have many Apple features, obviously active noise cancellation and transparency, also the quick pairing, like when you first open a pair of iPods or AirPods. It has the Find My support and Hey You Know Who, all built into the Beats Studio Pro. Has things like 40 hours of listening time. They actually fold up into a compact manner, and they go into a nice case that comes with the headphones, and USB-C. Hello, thank you. Even lossless audio. If you want to listen to lossless audio, you can do that over a wired USB-C connection directly from these headphones. They come in multiple colors, and they are cheaper than AirPods Max by $200. They are $350 for these Beats Studio Pro. A couple negatives that I saw, many were saying the build quality is not like AirPods Max. These do look more plasticky, and the ear cups are not removable. So you can't, swap out the ear cups easily like you can with AirPods Max, which are just magnetically attached, and it's a really nice experience. But these for $350 seem like a really great option. I don't have them personally. I don't know if I can't try them. If they want to send me a pair, I'm all for it. I am curious what of these features will come to the AirPods Max Gen 2 if that comes out this fall. I hope so, but yeah, they look nice.
So you're actually going to hold out for an AirPods Max 2?
Well, I mean, I don't use my AirPods Max right now very much. My AirPods Pro 2, I mean, those things get used a lot. But my AirPods Max, I'm just like, nah. I used them on the plane ride. I used them on my long plane ride, and it was incredible. It was wonderful for that. I want USB-C, and I want an off button. I just want a button that turns it off. That's all I want. I don't want to have to put it into the bra-like case just to have them go to sleep. No other case, no other stand that I've found reliably puts them to sleep, and I don't want to have my AirPods Max as an audio output option every time I have to select an audio output on my Mac just because they're on a stand. And it's just, yeah, that's what I want. Do you have any over-the-ear headphones, or do you stick with the in-ear?
Yeah, I have over the ear. In fact, I'm using them now. I have a wired set that I use for video editing and podcasting and stuff, and I like them very much. And I'm not. It's a very long cable, so I'm not that fussed about them being wired. But I don't use it for lossless audio, so I might be missing out there.
I mean, well, I think that many people might argue lossless audio is a little bit of a gimmick. Not that no one can really hear the difference, but I would like to try them. But Beat Studio Pro, link in the show notes for that. Guess what, William?
Yeah.
People now like Apple Maps more than Google Maps after 11 years. People like Apple Maps.
Wait, hang on. Let me pass that. Do you mean more people like Apple Maps, or people who like Apple Maps like it more than they like Google Maps?
That's a good distinction. That's a good distinction. Apparently, this was a Wall Street Journal article, and they talked to a bunch of people, a bunch of Maps users, which I think everyone's probably a Maps user in some way or another. I mean, everybody gets directions. But there are many Google Maps users that have now switched to Apple Maps because of some feature that attracted them. And everyone they asked, it was a different thing. Some people said they found Apple Maps more visually appealing and it got them where they needed to go. So they are using Apple Maps now. For some, it was transit. They actually preferred Apple Maps transit directions. Another supposed Google Maps power user, after being prompted in an airport, I think probably with an Apple Maps like notification, which I got this when I was traveling recently. Like if it knows you're in an airport, it'll throw up on your lock screen, hey, you can see a map of this airport right here. Yeah, and apparently this user saw that, looked at the airport information in Apple Maps, and switched. That's all it took. I feel like this could be a real cheesy commercial, where someone's like, the airport, oh, I can see this whole, wow. And then they use Apple Maps. But anyway, yeah, more people are liking Apple Maps now after 11 years. 11 years of slowly.
11 years already. Wow.
Slowly improving Apple Maps. More and more people are liking it. And, I did a video about this a couple months ago, kind of comparing the two. I like Apple Maps, and that's the one I use. I default to Apple Maps. I haven't used Google Maps in a long time, except, and I'm curious how your experience with this, sometimes a business phone number is still incorrect in Apple Maps. And I try to call the business, it'll say number disconnected, or it'll give me like a different location. And so I will go over to Google Maps, search the same location, and it's a different number listed, and that number works more of the time. And so for local and individual business information, another one is like business hours. I still find some of that data is missing in Apple Maps, as opposed to Google Maps seemingly has just every business in the world, the hours and the phone number and the website and all of that. So I still find some of that business info is lacking in Apple Maps, although it's getting better. And I think it's just a result of actual business owners and restaurants and whatever. Like they just don't know like where to update that information. And Apple has a whole portal where you can actually control your business info. You can confirm that you own the business. They send like a postcard and all that. And then you put in a special code. Like you can do all this, but it does take work. And it's just still, I think, more years of work trying to get this business info ironed out. But yeah, more people like Apple Maps. What's been your experience?
I never use Apple Maps or Google Maps for searching out businesses. I use an app called Where To by FutureTap.
What?
I don't know where it gets its data from, but I've had no issues of.
Your house. It gets it from your house, apparently, William. I've never heard this.
I can't remember the last time. I must have had a thing where a business had closed down despite the listing, but I can't remember it for it. So, where can FutureTap be culling its data from? I don't know.
Wait, so the app is called Where To?
It's called Where To with a question mark. There are lots of apps with that name, so it's probably best to search for FutureTap, one word, and then Where To.
And then is the app icon an exit sign?
Yes, I always think of it's being called Exit, but it is Where To. I was careful to get it right today. I use it extensively for it and have done for a very, very long time now. I like it immensely, actually.
This is very curious. I have never heard of this app ever.
Oh, well, you must try it now.
Well, I'm downloading it right now. I'm doing it. Can you like jump to the Apple Maps directions?
Yes, this has changed recently. It used to be quite one tap and you were through to Apple Maps, and now it's like it gives you a choice. Its own maps, Apple Maps or Google Maps. And I wish it would just let me say it's only ever going to be Apple Maps and go straight through. But I think actually its own maps probably are Apple Maps in a browser. So, yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to directions and all that, you are going to Apple Maps by default.
Yes. More out of habit than think. Well, when I use Where To, it's habit that I go through to Apple Maps. When I'm using any mapping stuff, I automatically go to Apple Maps, and that's more of a choice because I prefer Apple Maps. I so clearly remember one time I was driving something really important, and Apple Maps got me lost. I sat there and thought, well, then forget Apple Maps. It's all true. I got out Google Maps, and well, eventually I found that Google Maps also got me lost for this same Brigadoon-like place. But in that moment, sitting in the car, really, really tense, because the time I had to be there was so close for it. I was looking at the Google thing, and I've said, well, that's where I want to go, and you're telling me that's where it is. Where is the button that says, all right, then go? And I couldn't even find that. And I just found the design of Google Maps extremely counterintuitive, whereas Apple Maps, it just seemed like obvious what you would do. So I occasionally go back to Google Maps if a website has chucked me over to it, but even then I don't usually bother. I find a way to use Apple Maps instead.
Yeah, same. I default to Apple Maps, and I guess more and more people like it. So I'm actually going to be going on a road trip pretty soon, so I'll report back, see if it leads me astray, but that's what I do, Apple Maps. This really applies to you, William, specifically.
Okay.
So I just listen up, okay?
I'm dreading this.
There are some special some special discounts for the month of July when you use your Apple Card.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Yeah.
So so listen, I'm sorry, William. Still, apparently Goldman Sachs said they lost another few $1 million or whatever running Apple Card. I don't know what's happening, but I know you still don't have it. Canada doesn't have it. Only the U.S. has the Apple Card. So I know this is a very limited application, but there's a bunch of discounts if you use your Apple Card in the month of July, like a bunch of different vendors. Yeah. And because I'm going on a road trip and I was going to be booking hotels in my favorite hotel app, I'm not being sarcastic. I've used this app for years. Hotel Tonight. Hotel Tonight is a wonderful app. It is pretty much the only app I use to book hotels now. But you can get 10% off your hotel. This is not a sponsor. This sounds like an ad. This is not an ad. I was just glad because I was going to be using Hotel Tonight anyway on this road trip. And now I'll get 10% off any reservations in app.
Cool.
And with the Apple Card. Yeah.
America's quite a big market, isn't it, for the Apple Card? Quite big, really, compared to, the enormous UK where I am. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry, correction. You don't need an Apple Card for this, William. You can use this. I'm sorry, this is an Apple Pay promotion. Not an Apple Card. Apple Pay. So all you have to do is use Apple Pay, which you do have over there in the antiquated UK. I mean, in the UK.
So all that glee in your voice a moment ago was not true. Okay. It was not.
No, not true. I guess. Oh, my bad. No, Apple Pay. Sorry. So all you have to do is use Apple Pay, and you get all these discounts. Look at that.
Yes.
You get 30% off Ray-Ban. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'd like to end the show, William, to get your professional opinion. Your expert opinion.
Why is this so ominous suddenly? Okay, all right.
I just like doing this to you. I like building it. I like building it up,
and then just knocking me down.
I don't want to knock you down. I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm ready.
On HomeKit Insider Monday, Andrew O'Hara shares his thoughts on the newest social network, Threads, once again. Namely, he doesn't like it, but I'm still kind of there. And there's been some news. Mosseri, the Adam Mosseri, who's the guy who's like running Instagram and now Threads, he had this weird post last week where he was like, now Android's better than iOS. I don't know what that means. I don't know what he's referring to, but whatever. I don't know if he means the Threads app, if he means the OS as a whole, but supposedly there was an update to the Threads app on platforms. The following tab is coming. I thought it came in the update, but I don't see it yet. So anyway, following tab should be coming. They're adding a bunch of features, but it still had 100 million users in under a week. People are saying I'm not seeing the engagement I was. People going back to Twitter. I don't know. William, have you been on there? Do you open that app?
Well, the first of all thing is that the moment that guy said this about Android, I ditched my iPhone and swapped over straight away, and I haven't regretted it in the slightest. There's just no chance I'll go back to. Yeah. The thing I found a pain with Threads is switching between user accounts. So for work, actually for Apple Insider, I had to switch it to the Apple Insider account. And every time I think, I'll just take a minute to see what's going on with mine, it's like, well, I'd have to come out of that and then into mine and via Instagram and take a little back alley around here, turn this and go over the style and turn the key and it just, I kind of leave it on the Apple Insider one. So I haven't been in my own account for about 10 days. Or something like that.
You might have 1 million followers over there and you don't even know it. Right. Let me check. I'll check for you.
Oh, you can do that for me. Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, I'll check for you. This is a service I offer.
Please don't tell me if there are no followers. That would just be a crushing disappointment.
William, I'm over here on your profile.
Yeah.
Deputy chair of the
Writers Guild. Yes.
Can I try and say this in a British accent? Do you have permission?
Well, I don't really see how I can stop you, so let's call it permission. Yes.
I'm just reading your bio in a dramatic tone. Deputy chair of the Writers Guild of Great Britain.
Oh, bring back Dick Van Dyke. Okay, yes.
You have more than 0 followers, confidently, great. I could tell you that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, relief there.
And you have one thread here from 1 week ago.
Oh.
About the Prime Minister.
Oh.
That's all you got. That's all you got on
Wait,
there.
who was the Prime Minister a week ago?
So this was Winston Churchill.
Right.
No,
okay.
Have you ever seen The Darkest Hour, by the way?
Yes. Oh, did I see it or read it? I can't remember.
I can't even with you, William. I cannot. I don't even want to know. Forget it.
I read the first episode of Silo this week, by the way, and it's really good. Do you know it was going to be called Wool? And I didn't know why, because apparently the first book is called Wool, but the original script, the title is Wool, not Silo.
Wool, like the material you make clothes out of?
Yes.
Huh. Okay.
Intrigued.
That's interesting. Well, you should actually watch it instead of just reading the script.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't get exciting information like this. I mean, where you heard it here first and last that it was called Wool originally, Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't know.
You see, your life has been changed.
I enjoyed watching that series. I recommend it. I've also been enjoying Hijack, the series with Idris Elba, the Apple TV Plus original. Have you read that script?
No. I did read High Desert, and I really didn't like it. I was not surprised that the show's been cancelled, but I'm intrigued to see how it plays on the screen, because it sounded more promising than the script.
I have to say, if you read the script for Hijack, you're not going to be... It's going to seem like the episode's 5 minutes long, because there's just a lot of tense staring and mouthing things, because the plane is being hijacked. They're trying to be sneaky.
Do you remember there was a film in, I want to say 2010, 2011, called The Artist? It was a silent movie. And there's some academy, I don't think it was BAFTA in the UK, but it might have been, who refused to allow it to be entered into Best Original Screenplay because there was no dialogue. Everywhere else in the world, it got into it and it was winning all over the place, but one place didn't. So I think the script has more than just 5 minutes worth of material. It'll have 60-odd pages. It'll be good.
So anyway, Threads, it's fine. I'm still using it. The
enthusiasm in your voice. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm still somewhat. I mean, it's weird. I do feel like there was this obviously huge wave over to Threads in the first week.
Yeah,
and then I do think there was some novelty that wore off, and now I feel like people are swinging a little bit back to Twitter.
Yeah.
I've been trying to ride this 4 cross-section fence for the last 3 weeks, posting on 18 different social networks, except Blue Sky. I'm pretty sure that's dead, but. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to do about it.
Could this be how we all just get weaned off social networks?
Just
could be. I mean, I've lost
just overwhelmed
I've lost
by
a
choice.
bit of interest, really. So
there is a bit of that too. I don't know. I still have fun in there. I will say, with Mosseri's comment about Android and iOS or whatever, I will say I was updating my iPhone to something. There was some like security update this past week. And I was like, oh, let me post on Threads. I have this video. I want to share the link. And so I actually picked up my Pixel 6a because listen, I have an Android phone. Okay. I try to be knowledgeable about all this stuff. And so I copied the link on my Mac, expecting that I could pick up this phone and paste the link because of Universal Clipboard. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is an Android phone. And maybe there's a third-party app that lets me do this, but I'm not waiting for that. I'm not installing that. And so I just waited for my iPhone to restart and posted it easily there. But it was one of those moments where I was like, there are so many little intricacies like Universal Clipboard and things with my iCloud account that I just take for granted sometimes and just use. And when I pick up an Android phone to try and use it, which I do periodically just to see what it's like, I just miss all of that stuff. Shortcuts is a huge one. I have so many shortcuts that I run. Obviously, I can't do any of that on my Android phone. So, yeah, I was like, no, Siri's wrong. I don't think Android's better than iPhone.
I mean, you were going Mac to Android. Does Windows have Universal Clipboard with Android? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. I think if you want that kind of feature, you have to find a third-party app. And because Android is more open, you can probably get a third-party clipboard app that actually lets you paste it without opening the app. Like on iPhone, you would have to do the weird thing of, going back and forth.
The convenience, the certainty that your data's being sold to somebody, all of those things right there. Yes.
It's come right in the box. It's just right in the box. So
there you go.
Yeah. I don't know. Let me know, listeners, if you're on Threads. We've heard from several HomeKiteers on Threads that we'd never heard about on other platforms. And so that was fun. So I'm down. I'm still on all of them. I'm on everywhere. I'm trying to make sure I change everybody's usernames to make sure they match when I post on the right network. But anyway, I was just curious. You seem very excited about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking you're going to every party the same night, trying to be in all of them. You're going to miss the canapes, really.
It's very fast to get to these different parties. It's just one swipe.
Sure.
It's just one swipe. I because I don't have room for all these social networks on my home screens, I created a shortcut that now lives in my dock.
Yeah.
That opens a menu, and it basically lists all the social apps on my phone, and I can just tap it there. So I have Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Mastodon, Facebook, Bear. It's a notes app, but I put it in there anyways. Blue Sky and Threads. And so this one shortcut menu lets me quickly go to all these different apps.
You don't have Lemmy.
I can't even.
I just made
MySpace.
that up. I figured
if
there wasn't one now, there will be tomorrow. There's always another one. Yeah.
You got Post, you got MySpace, you got LiveJournal, all of those. Were you ever on LiveJournal back in the day?
No, I read plenty of things on LiveJournal, so I missed it when it was gone, but I never partook.
Gone.
Is it
gone? It's not gone, William. You can go to livejournal.com right now and read stuff.
Well, I'll go do that. Okay, then.
All right. Well, as William goes to LiveJournal, the ads on this website are terrible. Anyway, don't go to livejournal.com. Instead, go to AppleInsider.com. You can read the latest news there. Also, you can support the show in the Apple Podcast or at patreon.com/AppleInsider. Get an ad-free version of the show. And as always, thanks for those 5-star ratings. Keep them coming. Give you a shout out on the show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.